Thank God it's Friday, Eastern Football League lovers, and welcome to another edition of the Friday Preview. 8 rounds into the season. Who would imagine it had gone that fast? Today's program is brought to you by Inside Football, the magazine for the fair dinkum footy fan. It's also available on all your smartphones and tablets. My name is Ben Warren Smith, and joining me on this lovely Friday afternoon as we get set for the big action tomorrow is the man who is the producer of the EFL Sunday program, brought to you by Care Urgent Care on that day. This afternoon he joins us at EFL House. His name is Wayne Brasher. Good evening to you, mate.
Good afternoon, BWS, and welcome back from a lovely holiday, mate.
Well, hopefully it's going to be a good evening. Of course, we've still got a few hours of daylight ahead of us. But it's great to have you in EFL House with us to go through all the games today. And another couple of gentlemen. We've got more of the younger brigade. We're a little bit of the older statesmen this afternoon, but a couple of guys who have been doing a wonderful job in the studio on Saturday afternoons, one being the producer, one being a panel member. We'll start with the producer, Damian Watson. Good afternoon to you, mate.
Oh, thanks for that youthful intro, BWS. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, mate. And, of course, Mitchell Wood, we've heard him between 5 and 6 nearly every week over the last month or so. Great to have you in on a Friday afternoon, mate.
Thanks, BWS. Great to be here once again, and looking forward to a big day of EFL action tomorrow.
Hope you haven't wagged uni to come in here today, mate.
No, I haven't. Always have Fridays off, so quite happy to be here.
Some people have all the luxury, don't they?
Well, life's peachy for some. Let's start with Division 4, though, gentlemen. Plenty of great games, 5 of them, in fact, this week. South Belgrave have the bye, but the first game we're going to look at is out at the Canterbury Sports Ground, Wayne Brasher, and Canterbury take on Surrey Park this week. It's 11th versus 6th.
Yes, BWS, an interesting game set down for decision tomorrow when Canterbury take on Surrey Park in the local derby with bragging rights on the line. Canterbury is yet to open their account this season. However, at times they've shown to be a competitive unit in the matches they've played so far. Surrey Park, on the other hand, after starting the season with some good wins early, has come back to the field in recent weeks. Consecutive 60-point losses to Furniture Gully and Kilsyth leave the Panthers sitting mid-table, and with sides below them starting to hit form, they will see this as an opportunity to get a much-needed win tomorrow and stay in hunt for that elusive finals position. I think at this stage of the season, Surrey Park just look a little stronger overall, and of the two, a little bit more capable of kicking a winning score. I would love to see the Cobras get up for their first win, but for mine, Surrey Park have too much to play for, and I expect them to get the points by around 8 goals.
Nuttawading host Park Orchards tomorrow afternoon. Mitch out at Coonung Reserve. This is going to be an interesting game. Both sides narrowly going down last week.
Yeah, it will be a very interesting game. The Lions obviously came so close to pulling off one of the upsets of the season against the undefeated South Belgrave last week. They led by 3 goals at three-quarter time, but conceded 7 in the last quarter to lose by just 9 points. And not even an appearance from former North Melbourne star and shinboner of the century, Glenn Archer, was enough to spark the Park Orchards side, playing group against Forest Hill last week. The Sharks blew the perfect opportunity to keep their season intact, but they lost by 51 points. The Park Orchards defence will be tested by Sam McCullum, who is starting to find his form of last season after his 7-goal effort in the loss to South Belgrave. The man to watch for the Sharks is Sam Coughlin. He has been named in the best on 6 of the 7 games and was also strong against Canterbury in round 6, where he kicked 6 goals. Both sides are evenly matched, which makes for a fantastic game of football. However, last week's heartbreaking loss to South Belgrave will be fresh in the minds of the Lions players, and the 6-game losing streak should come to an end. Nuttawading by 3 goals.
The radio game at Damian Watson this tomorrow afternoon is Kilsyth taking on Coldstream out at Pinks Reserve. Now, Kilsyth sit third on the ladder. Coldstream have had a couple of wins of late, so this creates an interesting game.
Yeah, this should be an intriguing clash, I suppose, BWS. Kilsyth would undoubtedly be the favourites because they've been in superlative form this season, with only the one blemish thus far in 2013. Their good form was exemplified last week with a 13-goal second half in their 52-point victory over Surrey Park. Jay Sherlock would have to be the man to contain if Coldstream are to prevail tomorrow. Following on from an impressive 10-goal bag, Nathan McCulloch and Caleb Rigby are other dangerous players predicted to star for the Cougars tomorrow. As for Coldstream, they have atoned somewhat for their poor start to the season, claiming victory in 2 out of their past 3 matches. Liam Doherty up forward, as well as Michael Callanan and Daniel Price, starred last week in Coldstream's 81-point victory over the Eastern Lions, so expect them to exert their influence tomorrow. But despite these factors, I feel that Coldstream will experience a reality check and will not get within a bull's roar of Kilsyth at Pinks Reserve tomorrow.
Ferntree Gully and Sylvan tomorrow, Wayne Brasher. What a game this is going to be. Ferntree Gully have won every game that they've played this year, while Sylvan have only lost the one. Both sides have had the bye over the last couple of weeks, so they'll come into this game fresh, looking to feel each other out.
Yeah, a mouth-watering clash tomorrow, which sees Ferntree Gully coming off the bye, taking a Sylvan outfit in really good form. Ferntree Gully has not put a foot wrong so far this season. They boast a potent forward line with multiple scoring options led by Hager with 18 goals and Josh West with 16. A good midfield and the second best defence in regards to points scored against them so far this season. Players for Ferntree Gully such as Giannopoulos, McComb and Kavara have been in the Gully's best for most of the season, and these are pivotal players in the overall success of the team. Sylvan, on the other hand, easily accounted for Canterbury by 74 points last week, but their form this season has been equally as impressive, with their only loss being against the ladder leader in South Belgrave. Sylvan also boasts a side of multiple scoring options, with Paddy Rattray top scoring with 20 goals and Chris Goodlett with 17. Tyson McKenzie, Grant Newing, Rhett Newell and Dan Tui all having consistent seasons as well. The bye can sometimes work for you and work against you, and in Ferntree Gully's case, they probably would not want Sylvan to get out of the blocks early and play catch-up football for the rest of the game. If this happens, Sylvan can probably get the win, but for me, I think Ferntree Gully, after a tight first half, will just do enough to get the win by 3 goals after being pushed all the way.
It has the makings for a cracker, doesn't it? The fifth and final game tomorrow afternoon. Forest Hill taking on the Eastern Lions, Mitch. Forest Hill getting up over Park Orchards last week, while the Eastern Lions going down to Coldstream. How do you see this one panning out?
Yeah, it's a fifth place Zebras up against an out-of-form Eastern Lions side. Forest Hill are really in contention for a place in the finals after notching up their third win for the year in convincing fashion last week against Park Orchards. Meanwhile, the Eastern Lions have won just the one game for the season and suffered a humiliating 81-point loss to Coldstream at home on last Saturday afternoon. They are in ninth place on the ladder and must win tomorrow in order to get their season back on track. The Eastern Lions have the second worst points for in the competition and desperately need a wider spread of goal kickers if they want to start winning games. Forest Hill's Ash Jones will take a lot of confidence into this game after kicking 6 goals in a best-on-ground performance in the win over the Park Orchard Sharks. There's no doubting that the Lions will come out firing, but the Zebras should have no trouble at home, and I expect them to win quite comfortably.
South Belgrave get a well-earned rest, sitting on top of the table this weekend with 10 sides, probably pretty happy that they're not running out against the Saints tomorrow afternoon. That's Division 4 for another week on the Friday preview. Let's turn our attention to Division 3, and of course Division 3 is, as always, brought to you by the Inside Football, the magazine for the fair dinkum footy fan. Don't forget it on your smartphones and your tablets. But the first game we're going to have a look at, Damo, this one's put right on you. Second place Mitcham taking on 10th place Warrandyte. This should be bread and butter for the Tigers, you would think.
Well, you would think so, BWS. This is a mismatch on paper, and I'm afraid that will be conveyed on the field at Walker Park tomorrow. Mitcham have displayed brilliant football this year, and their 32-point win over Wantirna South in a high-scoring encounter vindicates their position as premiership contenders. Steve Pym is performing well as that potent presence up forward, converting another bag of 5 last week, and the Warrandyte defenders really need to quell his influence for a victory tomorrow. Speaking of the Bloods, they will be entering this match with newfound confidence after registering their second win of the season over Cellar Dwellers Whitehorse. Toby Gorman is Warrandyte's player to watch tomorrow after 3 goals and a best-on-ground performance last week. However, I'm tipping an easy victory for the Tigers.
The winless Whitehorse Pioneers play at home tomorrow to the Ringwood Football Club, Brash, and this game a few weeks ago you might have thought would go one way. I'm not too sure about it now.
No, so far the 2013 season, BWS, for both of these sides has not gone the way as hoped. And by tomorrow night, one of these two sides are going to be disappointed again. At the start of the season, Ringwood were touted as a side that was ready to take the next step and announced themselves as a genuine finals contender. Well, so far this season, there's nothing to suggest that they've improved on last season. In fact, they seem to have gone backwards. Their form has been spasmodic at best. Their only wins have been against the promoted side, the Basin, and a struggling Warrandyte unit. There seems to be an ill wind blowing down at Jubilee Park, and if they harbour aspirations of playing any finals football, tomorrow's game is a must-win game. James Katsiavos with 19 goals and Trent Farmer with 17 goals have kicked the bulk of the goals and have the opportunity tomorrow to stamp their authority on the game, whilst Tim Burmeister is the standout player, having been in their best every game so far this season. Luke Davis, Zach Toohey, Michael King, David Burmeister and Calvin Gregg have had consistency as well and are important cogs in the Ringwood outfit. What can you say about the Whitehorse Pioneers so far this year? Their form reads okay. Unfortunately, they have yet to register a win and came so agonisingly close a few weeks ago against Churnside Park by the barest of margins. Since then, no luck at all. James McGrath with 18 goals seems to be their only major avenue to goal, so they need to find other options. Aaron Mates, Edward Sim, Josh Beavis and Tim Law have had good seasons and once again will be required to play well again to give Whitehorse any chance of winning. On the balance of things, Ringwood's form is nothing to write home about, but they should be too classy for the Pioneers here and get the victory by 5 goals.
I disagree, Brash. I'm going for the Whitehorse Pioneers to pull their first victory on the board tomorrow. Now, this game that we're going to have a look at, and that's our third game in Division 3, Mitch, is the Basin taking on Heathmont. Now, the Heathmont have had a good last month, and the Basin have had a great introduction into Division 3. On paper, and probably on form, this game's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it certainly will, because both the Basin and Heathmont, they want to play finals football this season, so this game is shaping up to be very hard fought. As it stands, the Bears are 5-2 in 4th position, whilst the Jets are 4-3 and see themselves in 7th place on the ladder. Both sides celebrated close wins last week. The Basin were trailing by less than a kick against Churnside Park with less than 10 minutes remaining. However, they remained calm and kicked 4 late goals to come home winners by 18 points in a high-scoring affair at Batterham Reserve. Heathmont defied all odds with a 9-point victory over Templestowe, away from home, largely thanks to 5 goals from forward Robert Savoury. Will Gafer is a crucial part to the Bears' structure, and his last 3 showings has seen him been named in the best players, whilst Andy Coltiera and Brent Colicchio continue to kick multiple goals. Kevin Clark, Kieran O'Driscoll and David Sindri have all been consistent for the Jets and will need to play at their absolute best if they want to win their 5th game for the season. The home ground advantage should be enough for the Basin to get over the line, and I think that they'll do so by around 5 goals.
Churnside Park take on the Glen Waverley Hawks out at Kimberley Reserve, JMO, tomorrow afternoon. The Glen Waverley Hawks, 2 wins in a row. They found a little bit of form, whilst Churnside Park, at times, they've been unlucky.
Well, that's certainly the case, BWS. This could be a season-defining moment, though, for both clubs tomorrow. The Hawks lifted themselves out of the mire with a 28-point victory over the Redbacks last week, and I think that will revitalise the club. Glen Waverley's integral players in Brad Riddle, Andrew Azzopardi and Anthony Willenberg, who booted 4 goals last week, will be keys for the Hawks tomorrow. As for the developing Churnside Park, I don't think that their 10th ladder position is a true reflection of what they can be capable of. They have been gallant in most of their defeats this season, including last week when they went down to intimidating opponents the Basin by just 3 goals. Expect Ryan Marshall and Aaron Pettinella to be the shining lights, I suppose, for the Cougars tomorrow. However, I'll have to tip Glen Waverley in a close encounter tomorrow afternoon.
It was a case of close but no cigars, Wayne Brasher, last weekend for both Baronia and Templestowe. The Hawks head back to Tormore Reserve. They'll host the Dockers tomorrow at 6th versus 5th. Both these sides want to play finals. Very important game.
Yeah, if there was ever an 8-point game, then tomorrow's clash between Baronia and Templestowe has all the hallmarks of it being so. Both sides are coming off disappointing losses, with Baronia going down to Doncaster by 6 goals, while Templestowe suffered a shock loss at home to Heathmont by 8 points, which by the end of the season may come back to bite them. Baronia's form up until last week was solid, but I think Mark Hardy would be a little frustrated overall about the consistency of his side's performance. Templestowe at 5-2 are just at going at the moment without setting the world on fire. Coach John Brown would probably not be over concerned at this stage, but a loss this week might make him think again. The catalyst of Templestowe's success so far has been Jamie Bain, who with 26 goals for the season and having been in their best 5 of the 7 games is the go-to man. Simon Grasser with 20 goals has also been a good focal point for the Dockers this year. Jamie Van Kershoff, Alistair Quinn and Matthew Lucarelli also have been solid contributors throughout the season. Baronia have been well served by Dean Grice, Jess Bolton 14 goals and Jordan Begg being amongst their best, with Pat Garrity starting to regain some form in recent times. Toss of the coin job here, and with no confidence whatsoever, I'm tipping Templestowe on the strength of their early season form to get over the line by just 2 goals.
Walker Reserve is the place to be for the match of the round in Division 3 tomorrow, Mitch. It's going to be a mouth-watering clash. Doncaster head there. It's first versus third. Gonna be a ripper, you know it.
Yeah, definitely. This is easily going to be the game of the round in Division 3. Doncaster, as we all know, they've been the standout team this season and thoroughly deserve to be in top place. However, they will be tested when they play Wantirna South tomorrow. The Devils have lost only 3 games and sit in third position. Despite a close encounter for the first 3.5 quarters last week, the Sharks ran over Boronia in the last 10 minutes and won by 6 goals. Wantirna South, on the other hand, lost to Mitcham at Walker Reserve by 32 points after a convincing win the week earlier against the Basin. This game will give a real indication as to where the Devils are at and whether they can match it with the top teams of Division 3. Doncaster's dynamic duo of Nathan Thompson and James Appleford combined 9 goals in last week's win over Boronia. If Wantirna South is to win, they must nullify the impact of these 2 vocal points up forward. Meanwhile, at the other end of the ground, the Sharks will be hoping to do the same to Daniel Badome and Anthony Papa. This game could really go either way, but I think that Doncaster's experience in all areas of the ground will be the difference, and they will win in a close encounter.
6 great games in Division 3 as you go local for your football this afternoon, but don't despair, Division 2 fans. Your time is coming up now, but before you do, make sure you get your copy of Inside Football, the magazine for the fair dinkum footy fan. But you're at home, you want it to be easy, get it on your smartphone or your tablet. Now, Division 2, Damian Watson, what an important game it is out at Zerby's Reserve tomorrow. Doncaster East taking on Bayswater, both sides with only 2 wins for the year. It's another one of those 8-point type of games to get yourself out of any type of danger zone that may be lingering in the background.
Well, that's right, BWS. I think this is a contest to salivate about, with both sides on 2 wins, hoping to get their seasons back on track. Doncaster East, surprisingly, given their form this year has been subpar, displayed a quintessential team performance in their upset 26-point victory over Burrelbark last week. The former Hawthorn speedster, Carl Peterson, was a great goal-kicking exponent with 5 majors, and Daniel Gordon was impressive in the boil-over, and they're both players to keep an eye on tomorrow. On the other side of the pendulum, Bayswater comprehensively accounted for Upper Ferntree Gully, who is languishing at the bottom of the Division 2 table with an 88-point victory to reinvigorate their season. The usual suspects in Joel Galvin, Jaden Murphy and Wayne McInerney are figures that the Lions will need to negate tomorrow. I'm going to back Doncaster East, though, purely because of their home ground advantage at Zerby's Reserve.
Waverley Blues taking on Montrose. The 2 informed sides, Wayne Brasher, over the last 3 weeks. All of a sudden, this game out at Mount Waverley Reserve creates a little bit more interest than what we once thought.
Yeah, a much improved and confident Waverley Blues are shooting for 3 in a row tomorrow as they take on unbeaten ladder leaders in Montrose. After inflicting second-place North Ringwood's first loss for the season, Waverley Blues could rightly feel that they have an undeniable chance in ending Montrose's unbeaten run. However, I think coach Brett Davison fully understands the task ahead that confronts them and is under no illusion that a 4-quarter committed effort from his side will be required if they stand any chance of winning. Montrose continued on their winning way, setting up victory with a 5-2 second quarter and was never headed to record a 33-point victory against North Ringwood last week. This was done on the back of Dean Stephen and Billy Schilling not being prominent. However, when they don't fire, Montrose have the depth to cover all contingencies. Coach Brett Johnson continues to lead by example. Andrew Haining is playing consistently in the ruck. The Goodmans, Jai and Sam continue to give great service, whilst Dylan Rickard, Jack Garthwaite and Matthew Langdon continue to be among their best as well, with David Bell starting to make his presence felt after crossing from East Ringwood. Waverley Blues rely on Glenn Marnie and Nathan McCulloch to be amongst the goals each week. Hamish Lay has had a good year so far down back and will probably get the job on Schilling. John Heinsohn and Matthew Watts are key elements that will be crucial to Waverley Blues' fortunes. My main concern is whether Waverley Blues are going to be able to kick a winning score against the best defence in this grade, and on exposed form so far I doubt it very much. Waverley Blues cannot afford to let Montrose get out of the blocks early, because in the twinkling of an eye the contest will be over before it had started. Once again, all things point to a Montrose victory, but I expect the Waverley Blues to give a good account of themselves. Unfortunately, I think Montrose will get the victory by 8 goals.
Burrelbark, who went down to Doncaster East last week in a game they would have thought that they should have won. They sit in 4th position, take on Mulgrave tomorrow out at Heights Reserve. Mitch, this is going to be an interesting game now. Would you agree?
Most definitely. Both teams will be hoping to get the 4 points after disappointing losses last Saturday. The Mustangs are just with the 4 wins at the moment, and Mulgrave have only sung the club song on 2 occasions, and they sit in 8th place. Mooroolbark suffered a shock loss to Doncaster East in Matthew Polkinghorn's 150th match at the Heights Reserve. They were outplayed by the then bottom place Lions in the second half and lost by 26 points in one of the upsets of the season. Despite being level with the Waverley Blues at three-quarter time, Mulgrave lacked the hunger to see out the game and fell short by 15 points. The Mustangs' star midfielder Matt Polkinghorn has been impressed with the consistency of Andy Preston down back and Mark Martin in the midfield. Vital to the Lions' cause is leading forward Ben Gilling, who has been a notable goal kicker in recent weeks. Expect Mulgrave to be competitive, though last week's reality check should provide Mooroolbark's playing group with a lot of motivation to get the win at home.
Arguably the best game in Division 2 tomorrow, Damo, is out at Quambia Reserve. North Ringwood, sitting in second position, have lost their past 2 games over the last fortnight. Now they take on Donvale, who head out there with a better win-loss ratio than a lot of other sides. They still sit in 5th position, so out of that 4. Interesting one, another interesting one.
It certainly is BWS, and I tell you, this is a hard result to predict. North Ringwood's fairy tale unblemished start to the season, as you mentioned, has crashed back to earth in the past fortnight with 2 consecutive losses. You watched the Saints against Montrose in the radio game last week, Benny, and their effort really did dissipate after quarter time. Having said that, North Ringwood does have the ability to carry their intensity throughout the entire match, and players such as Tom Hill, Heath Decker and captain coach Brett Moyle can assist them in achieving that. Conversely, Donvale are a team that have been essentially thereabouts in Division 2. They were competitive but faltered against an unrelenting Croydon unit last week, and the Vales will be looking to amend that performance tomorrow. And they can, I believe, through the influences of Chris Jones, Colin Sandbrook and Jack Purcell. However, I feel that the Saints can return to the winners list and prove too good on their home turf tomorrow.
Upper Ferntree Gully in the 5th and final game in Division 2. Tomorrow, Brash take on Croydon, the side that's moved down to Division 2 this year. This is going to be a tough one out at Kings Park.
Yeah, Croydon ventured down to the open expanses of Kings Park to take on a struggling Upper Ferntree Gully side tomorrow. Croydon are travelling along well so far in 2013, sitting in 3rd position. Even though their victories have not been by big margins, they've been workmanlike and they get the job done. Paul Millions has done a great job in restoring the confidence of not only the playing group but the club as well. They've had an even spread of players who can kick goals, led by Brendan Wynert, supported by Justin Ficcarelli and David Black. Jimmy Grant has been in good form this year and seems to play even better when he is at his antagonistic best and getting in the opposition's face. The backline has been led solidly by Hayden Lovett, Trent Martin and Josh Bolton, who have been regulars in their best players. Andrew Hughes and Matt Wilkins on their day can also trouble oppositions depending on the roles that they are asked to play. At this stage of the season, I thought Jarrett Clark, after transferring from Knox, would have had a bit more impact. If Croydon are going to challenge for the flag, he needs to be up and running. At his best, he takes a good contestant mark and has the ability to kick multiple goals. Their counterparts Upper Ferntree Gully are not having a good time of it this season. With several key players leaving the club at the end of last season, the coach Andy Heyman has had to start to rebuild the team, which takes time. The fortunes of the club so far have depended heavily on Tate Hickleton, who is playing a lone hand this season as the key forward with 17 goals, along with the experienced Tim Risley in the midfield. Liam Jelly has also been in their best down back for the majority of the season. Other players such as Patrick Jelly, Kelsey Curry and Ryan Minahan have made contributions as well. Upper Ferntree Gully are always a better proposition at home, but I think a more experienced and settled Croydon outfit will get the points by 7 goals.
Hope your team wins as you go out to your Division 2 matches tomorrow afternoon, and I hope you've listened to me throughout the Friday preview in telling you to get that copy of Inside Football, the magazine for the fair dinkum footy fan. Get it on your iPhone, get it on your tablet, just get it. It is a quality read. Now, gentlemen, it is time for the Premier Division. Mitch, you've got the first one up, mate. This is Noble Park heading out to Cheon Park to take on the Doggies. This is 9th versus 2nd. Do you see the Bulls running away with this one?
Yeah, well, it's a fairly lopsided affair at the moment. Second place, Noble Park. They'll go in firm favourites against South Croydon, who, as you said, sit in 9th spot. The Bulls made a statement last week with a comfortable 59-point victory over last year's minor premiers in Norwood. Their pressure and ball movement through the midfield was second to none, and the margin could have been a lot more had they kicked straighter in front of goal. Also having a victory was South Croydon against the winless Rams at East Burwood Reserve. It was an all-round team effort with half the side kicking a goal in the 26-point win. Noble Park's big man Brett Dorr is having a super season and will receive a lot of attention in tomorrow's game. He has been averaging just under 3 goals a game and booted a season high of 5 last week against Norwood. For South Croydon, Nicholas Molnar has been named best on for the Bulldogs in their last 2 games and has been well supported by the King brothers and Daniel Coughlin. From what we saw last Saturday afternoon from the Bulls, you would expect them to notch up their 6th win for the year in pretty convincing fashion.
The oldest, the greatest rivalry in the Eastern Football League in their 51 years, Damian Watson, is the East Burwood Football Club and the Vermont Football Club. And tomorrow, once again, they head out to East Burwood Reserve, as they've done so many times over the years. Although this year it's 12th versus 3rd, these games always bring a lot of fire, and I'm tipping it could be a close margin.
Well, BWS, you could not get a starker contrast in form. I know there is a big rivalry between these sides, but you just have to look at the difference between them. The hapless Rams remain winless, while the Eagles have crept up to 3rd on the Division 1 table and defied early season criticism with 5 consecutive wins coming into this clash. It's difficult to find any positives from East Burwood's perspective, and they squandered their biggest chance for a win thus far in 2013, I feel, with a 25-point defeat at the hands of South Croydon last week. Players such as Jason Kennedy and Matt Mariani have been in good form and may provide the Rams with some verve. However, Vermont, through the assistance of Tom Schneider, Grant McCarthy, and the ever-reliable goal kicker in Justin Van Oonen, who booted 5 in the Eagles' win over Knox last week, I feel will replicate their good form for an effortless win tomorrow.
Effortless. That's being effortless. So 10 goals plus, is that what we're calling effortless?
Could even be more. Could be a Scoresby-like defeat.
Oh, you heard it here. Damian Watson, after Ray's rant on Wednesday night, he may just be able to lift the Rams tomorrow afternoon, but Vermont clearly do go in that game as favourite. Now, let's head out to Knox Gardens Reserve, Brash, because Knox take on Roval. Rivals from years gone by, 7th versus 6th. It's going to be a good clash.
In a danger game tomorrow, Knox return home to take on a Roval side full of confidence after coming from 4 goals down at half-time to get the points against a disappointing Blackburn by 11 points last week. Roval so far this season have proven that on their day they can mix it with the best of them. Coach Paul Minot would be very happy with the way the side has acquitted themselves in Division 1 this year. After opening the season with 3 good wins, John Knight would be a little disappointed to see his side with 1 win in their last 4, which sees Knox sitting mid-table. If they hope to play finals this year, they need a victory tomorrow. I'm not expecting a high-scoring game, especially if Melbourne's weather has anything to do with it. Knox were not disgraced in a 34-point loss against Vermont last week. Unfortunately, some costly defensive errors in the 3rd quarter allowed the Eagles to take control of the game, which ultimately handed them victory. If Roval hope to win this game, they will need to find a way to negate Luke Williams' impact on the game. A class player who covers the ground with ease with what seems like unlimited stamina and endurance, the opposition will have to designate a player to do a run-with job. Unfortunately, in most cases, it's a luxury that most sides don't have. On the other hand, Roval has a class forward in Cody Morris, a strong mark and an accurate goal kicker with 26 goals for the season. He has shown the ability to break games open and currently leads the goal kicking in EFL Division 1. I expect Jacob Castricum to get the job on him tomorrow, and his contribution will have a big say in Knox's fate. Roval have also been well served by Nathan Hicks, Michael Bussey and Max Makara, who have also played well this year. Alex Frawley has taken his game to a new level and has been the standout player this season. Knox beside Luke Williams as well as Sam Jeffries, Scott Davis and Liam Kenny and leading goal kicker James Morris continue to be in their best. Knox are a very honest side who work hard for each other but lack a key forward to finish off their good work, and this could be their undoing tomorrow. After taking all things into consideration, I'm tipping Knox with not a lot of conviction, only because a Roval win would not surprise me. The margin, 3 points.
Another game you could toss a coin over, Mitch, is out at Moreton Park tomorrow with Blackburn taking on East Ringwood. Both sides struggling at the start of the year, but still wins on the board and still shown some good form at times.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to separate both Blackburn and East Ringwood this season. Both sides are obviously in the bottom half of the ladder and have somewhat really struggled to come up with the wins this year. The Panthers blew a 5-goal lead at half-time to Roval last week and couldn't keep up with the young side. They lost by 11 points. A similar result took place down the road, with the Roos also wasting a 4-goal lead at half-time and allowing Lilydale to claim a memorable 10-point victory away from home. Blackburn must take their chances and will need to get everything out of Paul Bunn, Ben Doolan, Ben Fraser and young gun Tyler Faulkner. They will also be hoping to limit Aaron Renton's impact for East Ringwood. He has been a lively contributor in recent weeks and kicked 4 goals for the second time this season in the loss to Lilydale. The loser of tomorrow's game will find it extremely hard to push for a place in the finals this season. Despite last week's narrow loss, East Ringwood have shown a lot of promise in recent weeks, and I believe they'll bounce back and register their 3rd win.
It's a tough division to call this one this week, Damian Watson, Division 1, and Scoresby take on Lilydale, and it's 11 versus 5th, but Scoresby have got a couple of wins on the board. They've been belted a few times as well, but Lilydale's form, they've been up and down. Which Lilydale side's going to come to play tomorrow?
Well, they have been inconsistent, it's fair to say, but I feel this is potentially another one-sided contest that we can expect in Division 1 this weekend.
You're loving the Thrashers this week, aren't you?
Oh, I'm salivating over them. I'll use that word again. Look, the poor old Magpies have endured and suffered through unmitigated drubbings at the hands of last year's grand finalists in the past fortnight, and I think it'll be another big task this weekend when they face the in-form Lilydale. If Scoresby players such as Lockie Bain, David Marcius and the Hicks brothers can convey initiative, then I think the Magpies will be competitive in front of their home crowd tomorrow. However, the prospect of facing Lilydale, who are brimming with confidence following a 10-point away victory against East Ringwood last week, I feel will be daunting for the Magpies. Marcus Hodges, Ben Power and Robert Allen have been in good form for the Falcons, and I feel that they can compound upon Scoresby's woes with a win tomorrow.
Well, last but no means the least, probably the pick of the bunch across all 4 divisions is the final game out at Mullum Reserve tomorrow. Brash, Norwood taking on Balwyn. Balwyn sitting on top of the table with Norwood nicely in the 4 as well.
Yeah, Norwood travelled down to Noel Park last week to put their credentials on show and received a harsh reality check to the tune of 59 points. At Mullum Reserve tomorrow, could lightning strike twice as they entertain a Balwyn side who at the moment can do no wrong? Norwood effectively were out of the contest early and could make no inroads for the rest of the day. Balwyn continued on their merry way with a 111-point win against an undermanned Scoresby team. Interestingly, Norwood and Balwyn seem to match up quite well, and the conditions of Mullum Reserve could have a big say in how this game will be decided tomorrow. Balwyn's side for the best part of the season has been very settled. The hardest thing for opposition clubs to come to grips with is the depth of the side. If you try to tag their key players and even diminish their influence, other players step up to the plate to pick up the slack. Norwood will once again rely on Brent English and Rhett Jordan to give them the run and carry around the ground as well as setting up their forwards. Brad Callagher and Matt McCormick will once again be required to kick the majority of goals and will need Rudy Felovich to perform heroically in the ruck. Matt Decklet, Jake Ford are having good seasons, whilst I expect David Trotter to further improve and become an important cog in this side as the season progresses. Balwyn will once again rely on the run of the Gilchrist boys, Rennie and Taylor, a centre line led by Shooter McMahon, and with a potent forward line led by Goebbels, Luke Barker and in recent weeks Jaden Hogle. Their scoring is just not restricted to their forwards, as their midfielders and on-ballers have the propensity to get in on the act. The matchups will determine Norwood's fate tomorrow. Norwood were embarrassed last week and will be keen to show their faithful that they are a better side and are capable of a more forward showing at home this week. However, I think Balwyn still have all the answers that Norwood can muster, and I expect them to remain undefeated with victory by 6 goals.
22 great games as you go local for your football across all 4 divisions tomorrow. That's the Friday preview for another week. We hope you have enjoyed it. We certainly have out here at EFL House. To Wayne Brasher, thanks for coming in on another Friday, mate. Looking forward to a big day tomorrow.
I certainly am.
And Mitchell Wood, you'll be playing early, but you'll be in the studio between 5 and 6. We're really looking forward to that post-match show.
Yes, Pete, I'm just looking forward to doing it once again.
And Damian Watson, he's come in on a Friday because he's having a week weekend off and a well-earned rest on the weekend, but he'll be back firing and filled with great words next Saturday afternoon.
Thanks for having me, BWS.
As we've said, the Friday preview has been brought to you by Inside Football. I've drummed it into you. I know I'm going to get out and get one now, and Brasher's going to get one on his iPad. It's working out very nicely. Yeah. From all of us out here, out at EFL House, as a wise man once said, stick a fork in us, we're done.